Hello you guys, and welcome back to this very easy Melodious Etudes for the Violin in First Position by Edward Elgar. So today we are going to be taking a look at Etude B, and just a reminder, this is linked below for you. This is going to be found on the blessed imslp.org website, which you should definitely consider subscribing to. IMSLP is $2.99 a month, and it's just like a wealth of music for us musicians. And anyway, let's take a look at Etude B. So a couple things to look at first. We are going to look at the key signature and the time signature, and then the tempo marking at the beginning. And then we'll take a look at any other details, which actually there are, even though it doesn't really seem like much, but looks can be deceiving, as you know. So the first thing, the key signature, there's no sharps and no flats in the key signature. So that means that everything is natural. There's no sharps and there's no flats. Everything is natural. So we'll get our hand patterns for that in a minute. The next thing is the time signature, 2, 4. The upper number is telling you how many beats there are. So there's 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And the lower number is telling you what the beat is. So what is this equal to? Is this an eighth note that I'm feeling? Is it a 16th note, a quarter note, a half note? This is a quarter note, 2, 4. 4 is for a quarter note. And that's really important for us to know what the beat is, because then we can figure out the other rhythms. So we've got quarter notes, and we've also got eighth notes to deal with, right? So are you getting seasick? I'm sorry, I'll stop in a minute. But eighth notes are just twice as fast. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and, all right? So we'll get to that in a minute. Let's take a look. Let's scan this and see what strings are we on. Then we can figure out what hand patterns we're in. We are on the A string. We're on the E string. We're a little bit on the D string and a little bit on the G string. So we'll get our hand patterns on every string. There's some accidentals in there, and you might already know that an accidental, like in measure, there's no measure numbers, but there's lines. There's 4 lines. Let's find the third line. So line 3, at the very end, there's an F sharp. So it's for the entire measure. That F sharp is for the whole measure, but when you change to the next measure, it's back to F natural, which they actually did mark at the beginning of the 4th line. There's an F natural there, which doesn't need to be there, but it's just very easy violin etude, so we're just beginning to learn and remember that it changes back to the key signature. There's also a C sharp in there, and then it goes back to C natural, which doesn't need to be marked, but that's conveniently marked for us as we're learning to remember accidentals. And there's also one of these little things at the end. Look at the last measure. There's a little this with a dot, and that's a fermata. So the fermata is going to be just held for a little bit longer time than normal. And since it's over a rest for us, it's probably the piano that has that, because these little etudes are for violin and piano, and you should definitely befriend a pianist, because pianists are awesome, and how fun would it be to be able to play these together? So anyway, the piano would hold that, and then they would, you know, decide when they want to end. So they might leave you hanging for a while. I'm just kidding. Other thing, let me grab my violin, and we're going to just talk about the bowing, which seems simple enough, but there goes my shoulder rest. Bowings can often impact our interpretation of the rhythms, right? And so sometimes when we do 2 notes slurred, we can accidentally clip one of the 2 notes short and lengthen one of the 2 notes. So for example, at the beginning, I'm going to play you 3 different ways. Here's the first way. Here's another way. And here's another way. try, well, do you remember how we were doing 1 and 2 and? So it's da, dun, dun, da, dun, dun, da, dun, da, but with the right notes, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to play this all the way through, all separate bows, so that I know that you know exactly the rhythm, and then we'll do it again and we'll play the slur, and maybe you'll notice if you're kind of changing the rhythm at all. So allegretto is fairly fast, but I think it's a little bit slower than allegro, which is around 120. So we're going to go on the slower side, but it's still gonna be fast. However, I don't think we're gonna sight read it this fast. This is 100. 1, 2, 1, 2. Dun, da, 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 dun, da, da, da. It's a little fast to sight read, so we're gonna go a bit slower. Let's try it at 72. Okay, it's also forte loud the whole time. So if you are getting lazy over there, stay strong and stay nice and loud. Okay, so before we begin, we need to find our hand patterns. So remember, no sharps and no flats. So on the G string, we have G, A, B, C, D. So our basic hand pattern. On the D string, we have D, E, F, G, A. And on the A string, we have A, B, C, D, E. And on the E string, we have E, F, G, A, B. So one more time, on the G string, you're going to have the basic hand pattern. On your middle 2 strings, you have low 2 with 1 and 2 together. And on the E string, you're going to reach back with first finger and then all whole steps after that. And you notice my thumb here comes up so that it's a little bit more in line with the second finger for this particular hand pattern. It's just more comfortable for me, so feel free to move your thumb around so that you don't have a death grip and so that it's comfortable. More comfortable, I should say. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and get set up. So find your beginning note. Let's put your bow on the A string, and let's just start to feel the beat. 1, 2, 1, 2. This is actually still a little bit fast, so we're gonna go a little bit slower. Let's try 60. Dun, 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 dun. It's honestly, it's still fast. So we're gonna go a little bit slower. To sight read, I don't wanna make you sight read too fast. Dun, 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 dun. Let's try that. So this is 50. Okay, so getting ready to play. Let's take a deep breath in. 1, 2, and exhale. Just let everything relax. I'm going to count to 2 twice and then we'll begin. So 1, 2, 1, 2. All separate bows. Stay nice and loud. About that. I need to, my glasses are, I left my glasses somewhere, so I have to go pick them up today. But anyway, oops, let's try it again. And this time we're going to try the bowing and try to use the same amount of bow on your down bow as you do on the up bow. The up bow might have a tendency to kind of get stuck and not be you might not use as much bow on the down bow as you do on the up bow, but equalize them, because your quarter note, you're going to use this much bow, and then 2 eighth note third is still a quarter note. So you should use the same amount of bow. Don't do a lot of bow and then a little bit of bow and then a lot of bow and then a little bit of bow, because you're going to get stuck. You'll kind of get stuck at the tip. So if you do get stuck at the tip, use more bow on your up bows. All right, and I need to put some rubber bands on these shoulder rests. Otherwise they're gonna fling off. So here's our metronome. We're gonna do the bowing this time. And to stay nice and loud, let's start kind of lower in the bow. Let's get comfortable. I'm gonna count to 2. All right, so 2 times. 1, 2, 1, 2. All the way back to where you started. All the way back. Yikes. So how did you do with your bow? Did you get stuck at all? Let's try it up to speed. So I'm going to bump this up to 100. And since we're going almost twice as fast, I'm not going to use my whole bow like I did last time. I'm going to use half of the bow. Dun, da, da, dun, da, da, dun, and see if that just kind of keeps it cleaner. Because if I'm using all this bow, it's just going to be crazy person mode. So I'm going to just use less bow. Conserve. So let's get comfortable. Get ready to play. I'm going to count to 2 for you 2 times. 1, 2, 1, 2. Super fast. So that's going to be it for today, you guys. I hope that this was enjoyable and fun for you. I hope you'll check these out over the next week or 2. And I mentioned in my viola video on this one that probably in the new year, I will try to intersperse like a song for you on the 2nd week, since we're doing an etude every 2 weeks. But I don't know if I'll be able to do that every week, because I need to make sure that I find a public domain song. I think I don't really understand the copyright issue. I just don't want to run into problems. So I don't know if I'll always be able to promise you that there will be a tune for you in between the weeks that we study the etudes, but I will certainly try to surprise you with something fun when I can. So I will see you in 2 weeks for Etude C, which is a lot harder. All right, so happy practicing, you guys. Lots of love.